Hi everyone, my name is Samantha Bicknell for Professor Morgan's class, and I will be talking about the short story that I will be analyzing in my upcoming essay. It is the short story by Sylvia Plath called Johnny Panic in the Bible of Dreams. And to start off this video, I'm going to read to you one of the first quotes in the book, and it's kind of a good, summarized, kind of mysterious a little, so maybe you might want to read it after you hear a little bit of these quotes. I will be repeating many in the story and throughout this video, so here we go. There isn't a dream I haven't typed up in our record books that I don't know by heart. There isn't a dream I haven't copied out at home into Johnny Panic's Bible of Dreams. So this is one of the more chilling, more simple, yet mysterious quotes from the book. Basically, Johnny Panic in the Bible of Dreams, throughout it, Plath emphasizes the battle of life versus death. She talks a lot about mental illnesses. Basically, the story to me, from what I understood, was a whole big metaphor, big symbol for how it feels to suffer through mental illnesses. And anyways, how it can distort your life and how it can distort your values and how it affects your purpose in life, basically. So Johnny Panic, for those of you who are wondering who Johnny Panic is, he is a fear god worshipped by the main character. Johnny Panic is a personified version of an imprisoning mental illness. So, the author of the story, I'll give you a little background. Her name's Sylvia Plath. She's one of the 20th century's most appreciated writers. Unfortunately, lots of her stories led up kind of as a cry of help for her life. She committed suicide when she was 31 years old. She suffered from depression, anxiety, and it was during a time when people who had that, it was kind of an unspoken thing. It wasn't really studied as much, and not a lot of people knew a lot about it. Kind of like how we do now. We know lots more, and we have more medicines that people can take and such like that. When back then, when she was living, it wasn't a very common thing to talk about. It was almost kind of like taboo in a way. So anyways, let's get on with the story. So I will be reading another one of these quotes, and I will introduce to you her kind of symbol for the story that she has of life versus death. To be a true member of Johnny Panic's congregation, one must forget the dreamer and remember the dream. The dreamer is a merely flimsy vehicle for the great dream maker himself. So like I mentioned before, Johnny Panic is a fear god. He also is one of the dream makers, and she believes that, the main character in this story believes that what drives life is fear. So she believes that Johnny Panic is kind of the all-knowing, kind of her version of God almost, the man who controls everything, who makes things happen, who makes bad things happen mostly. He's a very negative character in this. It's not a safe relationship between the main character and Johnny Panic. Anyways, the main character has these battles with Johnny Panic and herself, and it's basically a metaphor for battling life with death. So, her purpose in life, the main character's purpose in life, revolves around appeasing Johnny Panic. She wants to do anything. She's willing to do anything to help Johnny Panic to write down these dreams. She's even willing to get fired from her own job. She works at a hospital, and what she does is she goes in and she steals these medical records to get people's names and information so she can figure out what their dreams were, and she can write it down into the Bible of Dreams. That is a very illegal thing to do, so she could easily get fired and get sent to jail if she was ever caught, and she's willing to risk that just to help Johnny Panic. Anyways, she is obsessed with the mere idea of him willing to do absolutely anything. He's basically her religion, and much like religion, people find purpose through that, and people find the reason of living through that, and once that's taken away from them, they're completely questioned, or once it's turned their back on them, it's completely questioned whether what is your life's meaning? Why are you here? Why should you be here? So anyways, Plath emphasizes to the readers that without purpose in life, what's the purpose of living? Like I mentioned before, Sylvia Plath had lots of inner struggles with herself, and she had a very hard time finding her purpose as a writer, especially back then for female writers. It was very hard for them. So it was just she puts so much emotion in not only this story but many of her stories. So she also, with this in her life versus death, she kind of fantasizes death a lot, and there's lots of metaphors that go to that. For example, when at the end of the story, I won't give away what happens, but at the end of the story when she's talking about how much she loves Johnny Panic, how much she cares, and how much she worships him, she compares his love and almost glorifies it in a way to the 20-story leap and the knife into the heart, and it's darkly beautiful and yet very depressing. You can feel her pain and her emotion within it. So for this next part, I will be talking about how her work relates with mental illnesses. So this quote I thought kind of summed it up a little nicely. I feel Johnny Panic turn his back, stony as Everest, higher than Orion, and the motto of the great Bible of dreams, perfect fear casteth out all else. Like I mentioned before, it's virtually impossible to analyze any of Plath's work without talking about her life a little bit, because her work and her life paralleled so well together. Like I said, it was almost a cry of help leading up to her suicide that happened, unfortunately. But basically what it is Johnny Panic is a big symbol for what it's like living with a mental illness, and this main character definitely shows it a lot. Throughout the story, there's lots of evidence that gives that she has obsessive compulsive disorder, and not only that, but she gives off symptoms of depression, anxiety, bipolar, schizophrenia, all sorts of other things, and there's quotes, strong quotes that say that definitely throughout the whole entire story. So throughout this time that Plath was alive, and throughout the time that this story came out, like I mentioned before, it was kind of a time when it was a little hard to talk about mental illness, and it was a little hard to diagnose people with mental illness, and it was a little hard to find medication or find help for it. So she wanted to paint this picture for readers of what it was like, and so maybe people who could relate to it could understand that, okay, maybe like there's something maybe a little wrong or something, I should fix this. Also, she talks about how it was just kind of, she expressed the stigma within society as well. It was a very hard thing, because some people just thought, oh, well, it's all in their head, or it's not really real, or they're just sad, they'll get happy soon. But she painted a picture showing that depression, such as depression and bipolar disorder, is not such a thing as where you're just sad. It's not just that, because if we were just sad, it would be easy to just be happy again, but that's not exactly the case with depression or anxiety or bipolar disorder or anything like that. So she painted this picture of what it really is like and how painful the struggles are when we go through these things with mental illness. So she made it darkly beautiful and understandable. Anyways, the next quote I will talk about, which leads to my conclusion about Sylvia Plath's legacy, I will read you a last ending quote. His love is the 20-story leap, the rope at the throat, and the knife at the heart. He forgets not his own. Sylvia Plath to this day is a very respected and well-recognized author. She has written many stories some of you may know, like The Bell Jar and Ariel. She also wrote hundreds of poems. She even wrote children's books from last time I heard. Anyways, with her legacy following after her suicide, she inspired so many people. I know that there was a quote by Robin Pinsky, who is a book reviewer for the New York Times. He said that through Plath's her imagination, she was able to give off messages to people on how it was like to suffer with mental illness, and was able to express what mental illnesses were like, in quote, with the energy of a runaway horse or a machine with a throttle stuck wide open. So that's how he was saying how powerful her words were to portray any of her stories virtually, especially in Johnny Panic and the Bible of Dreams, is a very vivid, very, very painted beautifully. It was beautifully done. It was such a great short story. Another book reviewer for the New York Times, Joyce Carol Oates, described Plath's poetry as malevolent malevolent nursery rhymes. She goes on talking about her journals that were later published after her death. Her mother actually edited them, Sylvia Plath's mother, Aurelia Plath. She goes on saying, amid so much that is despairing, there are moments of ecstasy and literary revelation. So with that, I leave you with my final quote, well, one of my favorite quotes from Johnny Panic in the Bible of Dreams, and I hope after you hear this video that you enjoyed it and that you maybe even get a chance to read it. I do highly suggest Sylvia Plath. She's one of my favorite authors. Anyways, here it is. Nobody comes to our office unless they have troubles. Troubles that can't be pinpointed by Wasserman's or Weschler Bellevues alone. Okay, and that's it.